My name is Bobby Ampezan. Ampezan is Ampezan. I'm the managing editor of Arkansas Public Media, based out of Little Rock with reporters in Jonesboro and Fayetteville. John, you should join me. I was accompanied as a media witness by Sean Murphy of the Associated Press and
John Moritz, M-O-R-I-T-Z, the Democrat Gazette.
After leaving here, we got in a car with a driver, clearly a staffer here at the unit. We drove, I think it's east, kind of around the lethal fence, and then proceeded through the Sally Port. This was a name that I asked about repeatedly. The Sally Port is a kind of double-fenced bay, so 4 fences kind of all told, beyond the lethal fence of the prison. We followed a couple of vans. There were a couple of cars of people that had disembarked and entered, whether the building we were to go to, whether they were witnesses or staffers, security or staff for the prison, I don't know. We were following a van that we believe had witnesses in it. That van, as well as our car behind it, kind of pulled into a very narrow, gated, parking pad, and that's where we stayed. There were about a half dozen officers, and as well as some gentlemen who looked like they were, officials with the prison. We never even left the car, neither did the van full of witnesses in front of us. The van's reverse lights came on. Our driver got back into the car, and we pulled back out and left that area, and that's all there is to say. They hadn't told our driver the reason that it was being stopped, only that it was being stopped.
And John, what did you see? What were you thinking with them doubting?
I would just echo those statements. The driver came back into our car. He said it was a no-go, and at that point, we came back around to where we are now. There wasn't any explanation or kind of breakdown in the process.
And I mean, we can't emphasize enough, there was very, very little to see, both because it's dark out and because it's not as if we were among a number of cars kind of related to the event at hand. There was 1 or 2 moving cars in front of us that looked like vans filled with witnesses, and that's all there is.
And we were never brought into the hearing room or the execution chamber.
Are you able to talk at all about how you were each trying to approach this mentally? I mean, what's going on in your heads?
We were not allowed to take notebooks or pencils in, so we were, I think, just trying to discuss how we would keep a timeline of events and keep detailed, a detailed account without being able to write down to bring back to you folks.
We're going to break in right there. Obviously, there'll be an opportunity to hear from the 3 of them afterwards, but did want to bring up Jared Davis, who's going to be making comments on behalf of Governor Asa Hutchinson.
First and foremost, thank you guys for your patience tonight. It's been a really long evening. I believe you all have the statement from the governor that was just issued shortly after we got the decision from the U.S. Supreme Court that they declined the appeal from the AG's office. I'll tell you right now that tonight the families of the victims are on the governor's mind, and they have been throughout the last couple of months. And really throughout this entire process. And that's where I think we need to concentrate tonight. For one, Miss Marilyn Doss is the mother of Rebecca Doss, who was murdered in 1989 by Bruce Ward. This is 28 years without justice. Tonight she was told again that justice wouldn't come today. And that's hard for any mother to stomach, as many of you can imagine. Furthermore, Mr. Dick Daniel, the husband of Jane Daniel, he lost his wife back in 1990. She was 62 years old. He's been going through 27 years without justice, and tonight he'll go to sleep again without that peace that he was hoping to get tonight. And so I would encourage all of you guys, there's been a lot of talk about the inmates. I would encourage you to remember the victims throughout this process and their families who've had to go through this nightmare for 20, 25, 30 years. And tonight, the justice they were hoping to get, they will once again not. And so anyway, again, I would just encourage you all to remember them tonight in your reports, tomorrow in your stories. And with that, I'll open it up for any questions.
So when exactly did the Supreme Court do this?
They declined to grant to vacate the stay.
What about Judge Baker's ruling? Did they do anything with that?
Nothing with that at this point. I mean, we got the favorable ruling at the Eighth Circuit, and at that point, there's nothing tonight on that.
What was the vote?
I don't know.
What is the governor's next steps?
At this point, again, due to my understanding is because the Supreme Court ruled against, that process would now start over for Davis and Ward both, and we will turn our attention to Thursday, where again, ADC, the governor's office, the attorney general's office will be more than prepared to carry out the sentence under the law of Arkansas, 31 other states, and the federal government.
Jared, can you talk a little bit about going forward with the other executions? Does this, maybe not setting a precedent, but how does the governor's office move forward?
I think the way we've moved forward with it up until this point, and that's just be prepared. I've told many of you guys throughout the day that the governor spent the day at the mansion doing what he's done for the last couple of months, and that's continue to read over the transcripts, go over the clemency applications, make sure he's seen everything that there is to see. And we just have to be prepared the way we have been now. The ADC staffs, I know Solomon will be able to attest to here in a few moments, they were more than prepared tonight. Obviously, some of the preparation, moving the witnesses there in case we got a favorable ruling from the Supreme Court, as well as picking the press pool. So all we can do is prepare. All we can do is continue to fight for those families of the victims who deserve justice, and justice in Arkansas that was provided by a jury was capital punishment, and that is the sentence. And it's been, like I said, 25 years for a lot of these families, and it's a nightmare. They go through this year after year after year, and tonight again, 2 of them were told that, hey, it's not going to happen tonight again, and that's detrimental.
I'm sorry, when you
Yeah.
say that we start again with Ward and Davis, do they get the benefit of the full timetable, clemency, et cetera, or is there a way that the governor could reset this for within the next 2 weeks?
My understanding is that it starts it over, but I know that the Attorney General's office can probably speak more to that, but my understanding is that it starts the whole process over.
So to be clear, Don Davis and Bruce Ward will not be executed before that drug expires at the end of the month?
That is my understanding. Any other questions?
Is there you mentioned, this process starting,
Yeah.
all things starting over again. Has there been any discussion about not doing that? Not restarting the process after what's happened tonight?
Well, I think at this point, with the Supreme Court's ruling, my understanding is that it would have to start back over. But again, I think that'd be something that the Attorney
But I
General.
mean, has there been any talks of letting these men spend the rest of their lives in prison without having to restart the process several times over?
I mean, again, the fact is it's been 27 and 28 years in both of these instances. This puts families through hell. I mean, I can't imagine losing a loved one with no notice and just a brutal manner through a heinous crime, and have to be reminded of that every single year, every clemency hearing, every time an execution date is set. The fact of the matter is, a jury in Arkansas, under Arkansas law, provided these families with this sentence, and that is what they expect. That is the justice many of them are looking for. And again, it's I think our hearts, our thoughts, and prayers with the families tonight that have to deal with this once again. And our hearts go out to them, and I know I'm speaking for the governor when I say that.
Wouldn't it spare the families to say life without parole? That's the end of it. Stops putting families through hell, as you described.
Well, I think that the system, the fact of the matter is, like I said, 27 and 28 years, a sentence was handed down. It is the law, and it should be carried out.
Reasoning behind the court's decision?
I don't have that yet.
Does the governor at all regret the pace of the executions?
I think you guys have to respectfully take a step back and see how we got here. When the governor originally set these executions, I believe it was 2015, they were spread out. And we were put into a situation where, because of opposition in some cases, that we are boxed into certain drugs and to a certain time, and it's become more difficult to procure those. And so, that's why we're here. The governor sees his responsibility as governor to carry out the law of our state, and the law of our state allows for capital punishment. The sentences were handed down in these cases. The governor has, there's no concern of guilt, and in this case, that that's why we're here. It's a process that has put us in the situation where those decisions have to be made. And again, I would just encourage you guys to remember these families throughout this whole process. I know there's the speed of the situation. I know there's been a lot of reports on that. There's been reports on the inmates themselves. But again, the families are the ones that have to go through this. And to answer your question about the hell aspect of it, I think to provide the families the sentence they were promised 27, 28 years ago after all appeals have been exhausted, I think that is the justice that they seek. And I think that's what the governor will continue to advocate for.
Will the governor be looking for new methods of execution as the legislature opens the question back up potentially, since the DASLA is running out?
Say that one more time.
Will y'all be pushing for new methods of execution because the DASLA protocol, you've said you can't procure the drugs in the future, so we'll be pushing for a new method of execution?
Well, again, this is the position that we are in the state. That was something that the legislature, that's the law. That's what we have for executions. It's been upheld by courts, and that's kind of the position that we're in right now. So, again, the governor has full confidence in ADC. The staff here, they've done an excellent job preparing for tonight, and we'll continue on to Thursday, Monday, and Thursday. So.
With all eight of these, executions that were scheduled, all of them have been on death row for over 20 years, like you say. So it's not an isolated incident that these two cases have been on death row for over 20 years. So when you mention about the families have been through hell, been through torture, do you not think what do you think needs to change in order to give families justice if they aren't isolated incidents and there hasn't been an execution in 11 years, and now these families have to wait again? Maybe, do you think there needs to be some sort of change in order to bring families justice?
I can't answer that question. I think that justice in this case was provided by a jury 27 and 28 years ago, and we'll talk about Thursday and Monday and Thursday when we get there. But again, I can't answer that question, but I do know that the law of Arkansas, 31 other states, and the federal government allows for capital punishment. It has to be a unanimous decision by the jury. Again, that's why we're here. And to answer your question, there hasn't been one in 11 or 12 years, and that has created this bottleneck into a situation where you talk about the speed of it. But again, that is the justice these families were promised. And that, again, tonight when you have to tell a mother and a husband that justice isn't coming, and that's a tough message to deliver to anyone. And I know that Ms. Doss, with that news, was visibly distraught, and I think we can all understand why.
But if the state can't provide justice in this way, should there be a change?
I can't answer that question. That's the law we have in place in Arkansas.
Were the prisoners' families going to witness the execution? Can you speak to their experience coming to us?
I'll bring Solomon.
State law restricts the witnesses who are eligible to view an execution on behalf of the inmate, those being the attorney for the condemned and a spiritual advisor, should either one of those individuals be selected and agree to serve in those roles.
Question, is the department at all engaged in any current activities to find another source of bedazzlement?
At this point, our supply remains unchanged, and I'm unaware of any efforts to acquire any additional supply.
We'll take one more question. I'll let Solomon take over after that. I do want to say before that I really appreciate you guys. I know this is not a difficult or not an easy thing to do, and quite difficult to stay around and wait and see, and much like us. And so I appreciate many of you guys came down from different parts of Arkansas and across the country, and so we appreciate your patience with us tonight and being flexible. Last question, then I'll turn it over to Solomon.
Solomon, is the family from the victim family, are they still on the premises?
I'm unaware of if they've been transported off the compound or not.
Awesome. Thank you guys very much.
Thank y'all. To begin, the Department of Corrections' attention now shifts to the executions that are scheduled for Thursday. At this point, there are no stays in place for either Stacey Johnson or Liddell Lee, and we are under the impression and under the assumption that those executions will be carried out as scheduled. As I've stated repeatedly today, our staff has been trained, and our staff is ready to carry out these sentences that have been handed down by a jury. Been said, questions?
Solomon, was Mr. Davis ever moved out of the cell this evening?
He was not.
When is he going back to Garner?
As a general rule, we do not give advance notice of inmate transport, but obviously he will be returned back to the Varner unit.
So if he gets another execution date later on down the road, does that mean he gets the final meal, the preparations, start all over again?
As JR said, the process restarts from here with both Bruce Ward and Don Davis to the best of our knowledge at this point.
Are you worried about the extra stress caused by when you have situations where the IB team and the other people in the procedure are staying late into the night as stays are worked out in the court system?
As the governor said over the weekend in his statement, these judicial reviews are part of the process. Our staff is trained, our staff is capable to carry out these sentences. They were ready tonight, and they will be ready Thursday. They will be ready next Monday, and they will be ready next Thursday.
Are you worried at all with the double executions when there's stays like this where things get pushed back and pushed back and pushed back?
No worries.
Does the execution procedure involve video recording of any kind that would be subject to subsequent court?
There is no recording of the execution.
So in the event that anything went wrong, reporters who are there as witnesses but have no recording tools of any kind, including a pad of paper and a pencil, they wouldn't have that, and there would be no video or sound recording.
I trust your ability to be able to clearly and concisely report what you would have witnessed.
I have more trust than my boss, who
Hey.
usually gives me a pad of paper.
Yes, ma'am.
These are the first executions that will have the death certificate to say the way of death was through injection, correct? Instead of homicide.
There was a bill passed during the session addressing that point, but it is probably close to midnight on Tuesday morning, and I cannot tell you whether or not that law was passed with a emergency clause. JR, are you?
I don't
Yeah.
know for sure, but I can check.
Yeah, we can check that. All right. That's it? Thank y'all. Once again, just by way of logistics, process will work the same way on Thursday afternoon. We will be in clearing media through